Welcome to this week in the world of wrestling.
Welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John, that's my cohort and commentary Ashton, and this is our Lucha Underground review. And holy crap, the first half of Championship Wednesday certainly didn't disappoint. What an episode of Lucha Underground this was. The progression of certain stories, very well done. The two championship matches, top notch. Just an all-around exceptional hour. Ashton, what'd you think of it?
I love Lucha Underground so much. This show was so good. And it was one of those things where, we had two, main event worthy, awesome championship matches. And yet, I still think that the opening match could kind of stand up to the other two matches in terms of match quality and storytelling. It was amazing. This whole show, it was 3 matches and very, very little actual story progression other than those 3 matches. And it was just flat out incredible.
I completely agree with you, dude. The consistency, throughout this hour was unbelievable. But you know what? I think Lucha Underground has made it believable with how often they deliver in regards to their product. So With that said, let's get right into our first segment, Heat of the Night. And I didn't have any qualms with this show whatsoever. Ashton, do you have any nitpicks or heats of the night you'd like to air here?
No, I don't. And I'm a little bit salty about one of the match results, but that's just because of personal preference, and I can't let my personal preference cloud my actual judgment. This was a great show, basically about as close to flawless as you can get.
Absolutely, completely agree with you on all counts. So with that said, let us get right into our Lucha Underground review. Now, we have a recap video package of all, the stories that are going to be focused on for, tonight. But then we have pretty much a cold open because Angelico is taking on Son of Havoc with Ivelisse at ringside. And my God, Ashton, what a fun opener this was.
Yeah, this was great.
I gotta tell you, dude, there are so many good things about Lucha Underground, right? Like, if we were to do a commentary solely devoted to the good things about Lucha Underground, we'd be here all night. But I think we
kind of do that every Wednesday.
Yeah, every Wednesday, right? Because it really is nothing but good energy here on TWitWoW. But I think one of the things that I love is just the progression and the arc that is Son of Havoc. Like, he is one of the most over guys, I think, on this roster. Fans were really behind him for this one. It was a great story because, they're having this back and forth. And you can clearly see Son of Havoc is competent in that ring. Like, he's holding his own with Angelico, but Ivelisse at ringside is saying, come on, stay on him. What are you doing? Get up. Like, you would feel like if you were watching it and seeing Ivelisse, being so animated and so boisterous and everything, that Havoc was screwing up at every turn. But in reality, as I said, he was showing competency. He was holding his own. He was keeping up with Angelico. And, yeah, the back and forth these two had was just fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, Angelico with his knees are absolutely devastating.
Yeah.
Very precise, right on the button. What I love about Son of Havoc is his athleticism is off the charts. He did a standing shooting star press. That was very beautiful looking. My favorite spot came when he finally had enough of Ivelisse's crap. He gets on the apron, and they're, kind of going at it verbally. He shoves her out of the way to protect her, but he's able to catch Angelico, because I thought Angelico was going to be able to capitalize. Kicks Angelico in the head, throws off his equilibrium, and then with Angelico on all fours, he springboard double stomps Angelico in the back. I love that sequence. But I think you and I can both agree, well maybe not, but I certainly thought the best part, and I think you did too, the best part was the closing minutes, because Angelico tries taking the fight to Son of Havoc on the top rope. I think, well, is he going to hit a Hurricane Rana? What's he going to do? I think he tried for, some kind of superplex on the outside. But Son of Havoc hangs him up. He straddles him on the rope. So Angelico won't be able to reproduce for a while. But then when he's down and, he's just completely out, Son of Havoc, ascends. He looks like he's about to do a shooting star press. But before he does, he gets a microphone. And I've never seen anything like this, Ashton. He turns face towards the end of the matchup here.
During the match.
Yeah, during the match. That's crazy. Because he looks at Ivelisse and he says, I realize why I've been losing all of my matches. And you can see the crowd is so into it. Like, they know what's coming. And they're like, oh. And Ivelisse is like, oh, yeah? Oh, yeah? Why? You have been holding me back. And like, everybody again pops. It's like, that 80s, oh, man, going down. And then he says, Ivelisse, and in perfect comical Son of Havoc fashion, consider yourself dumped. And then he drops the mic, goes to the top rope, hits the shooting star press off the top rope, and gets the win.
Yep.
Dude, I've talked enough. What did you think about all this, man?
Dude, it was gold. This segment was, even if you cut out the rest of the match, which was phenomenal, the fact that he literally turned face while he was on the top rope getting ready to win the match, and then proceeded to win the match, is about the most baller boss thing I've ever seen anyone do in wrestling in my entire life.
It's so different, because here I am, too. I'm like, okay, he did that a little preemptively. What if she grabs his foot or does something or whatever? No,
yeah.
They gave him the win. And you know what? I gotta say, too, I love that about Lucha Underground as well. Like, it's so straightforward, because I think I'm so used to WWE-style booking that I just expect, like, all these crazy turns and, like, all this cockamamie stuff. Lucha Underground, they have a game plan. They stick with it. They're so straightforward and concise. I love it. And Son of Havoc getting this win, and Ivelisse just kind of stewing about it and just like, oh, I can't believe it. He dumped me, whatever. And then Son of Havoc goes and he celebrates at the crowd. That was awesome. And then as Angelico's recovering, he kind of gives Ivelisse this look like, oh, well, you're available. I'm available. You know where you want this to go. And Ivelisse pretty much responds by kicking him in the head, literally.
Yeah. And even though Son of Havoc's face turn was amazing, that might have been my favorite part of this entire first segment, because in any other promotion, the woman would be looking to cling on to anything, anywhere close to what she can get her hands on. And in Lucha Underground, no, the women are strong, they're independent, and they don't need no man.
I love it. They recognize that it's 2015, and it's so evident in their writing. And you'll be even happier to know, Ashton, that Ivelisse tweeted more or less that in a relationship or single, I'm still the baddest bitch in this building. I don't need anybody. So I think.
Well, and Stryker all but confirmed that on commentary after the kick to the head.
Yeah, I love it. And you know what, dude? Let's be honest here. This does open up opportunities for, like, all three people. Now, you have to imagine Helico may still be chasing Ivelisse. Son of Havoc is going to go on, I think, to be, if he isn't already, again, one of the top babyfaces. I wouldn't be surprised if we were talking about him and the Lucha Underground Championship, and I'd give it maybe 4 or 5 months, maybe even sooner than that. And Ivelisse the same way. Women have expressed an interest in getting in the world title picture. Maybe now that Ivellisse's paths aren't so clouded, who knows what this opens up for her. I just love this, dude. So good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any concluding remarks you want to make about this match before we move
on? Man. Yes. Okay. The dive over the turnbuckles.
Oh my God, how could I forget about that when that got the biggest pop for me? Holy shit. Dude, I think what was more impressive than the actual dive, because I've seen dives like that before, the height on Helico got on it.
He's so good.
Are you kidding me? I was so high in the air. Oh my God, it was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I'm glad you brought that up, because on Helico, man, you know what? When he starts getting on a roll, nobody's going to be able to stop him. I don't know where he's going to go now that maybe this whole Ivelisse thing is concluded. Maybe it hasn't. I don't know. But wherever he goes next, it's going to be entertaining. What a coup for Lucha Underground to have a guy like that on their roster. Seriously.
Yeah, exactly.
What was our next segment here, bud?
Our next segment was Backstage, Dario Cueto's office. Hernandez has arrived at the temple.
Oh, man. So I guess Hernandez isn't the prisoner then.
I know! That's all I could think was, oh my God, who's it gonna be now?
Because wasn't her...
it's funny because I feel like we haven't heard anything from Angela Fong. We haven't seen any kind of hints at who are at anyone even talking to the prisoner. It's like that storyline just kind of got like swept under the rug for a while. I can't wait until they bring it back up, because I'm like, now that we know that Hernandez isn't that guy, I can't friggin' wait to find out who it actually is.
Dude, you know what? Two things. A, the anticipation just mounts because now we've, disconfirmed that it's not Hernandez.
Yeah.
And B, what's so great about Lucha Underground, when WWE would kind of not acknowledge a storyline for a while, I think, oh, it's done. When Lucha Underground does it, you know what we call that? The calm before the storm.
Yeah, exactly. I know, that's the thing. Because, like, if this was WWE, I'd be like, oh, I guess they just forgot about the prisoner storyline. But no, this is Lucha Underground. We can believe in them to maintain everything. They have such great continuity. They respect their viewers. They know that they respect the intelligence of their viewers. They know that people don't just forget this stuff happened, and I love it.
Dude, if it's not Hernandez, what the hell kind of behemoth is lying behind that prison?
I know! Like, I feel like, did they make a random signing of someone that we don't know? Like, is it gonna be like Donovan Dijak, just like this gigantic jacked white guy, but wearing a mask so you can't tell? Like, I'm so curious who in the world this freaking prisoner is gonna be. And maybe on that same note, maybe it's like, one of those things where, the idea of something is scarier than if you ever actually see it, and they won't ever actually reveal a person, and they'll just kind of keep it as this idea looming in the background for as long as possible.
Yeah, it's almost Hitchcockian in its approach, because the human imagination is the most terrifying thing.
Yeah.
And you and I are just engaging in pure conjecture right now, and I think that's exactly what they want.
Yeah, because I'm just imagining like a 6'6" version of Drago at this point.
Yeah, and me as well. And I just want to make one more note about it before we actually get to Hernandez, because I do want to talk about him too. I really have to commend Lucha Underground for sustaining the guessing game in this internet age we live in. Now, I know you and I don't read spoilers anyway, so it wouldn't have affected us. But you'd have to imagine by now, in any other promotion, something would have gotten out. And these guys have been able to keep it mum and under lock and key, both literally and figuratively, apparently. Yeah. With Cueto's key around his neck. So I really have to commend them, man. It's something to really achieve in this age. But anyway, on to Hernandez, who actually is in front of us here. I'm very excited about this signing. Having watched TNA when I did, I actually did see LAX when it was Konnan. I actually saw both, incarnations of LAX. And
I didn't even know there was more than one. I always thought it was just Homicide and Hernandez.
Well, yeah, there was Homicide and Hernandez, and then there was, I think, Homicide and somebody else, who I forget their name, and then they also had two managers. Konnan was one, and then whoever played,
Hector Guerrero.
Well, yeah, was it Hector Guerrero was another, but they also had a woman, and I know the woman's name, but I'm not going to spend all this time thinking about it. But anyway.
Was it Salinas?
It may have been Salinas. She was Ariel in ECW, whatever her real name was.
I think that's who it is.
But yeah, Hernandez is a freak. He's a great athlete. I mean, Supermax is a very apt name for him. So I'm excited to see what he can do in Lucha Underground. I mean, already I'm thinking, this whole, as we'll see later in the show.
Yeah, it was Salinas. How did I know that? I never even watched TNA.
Ashton being clutch. Must be a day that ends in Y. But, it's cool because him and Konnan have a prior relationship, which is acknowledged, on this show, which I love. I love that they have that wide a sense of continuity. And I think it really does create a lot of intriguing possibilities for Hernandez here.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So I'll be looking forward to see what he does. He gives Cueto a fist bump, kind of like just slaps his hand real quick and fist bumps him. I think Cueto has this look like, where's the sanitizer? So Cueto's still being that business guy, getting things done, but you can tell he really doesn't like people. So
no, that's the thing though. Fist bumps are actually significantly better hygienic wise than handshake.
That's true, but he also did make the hand contact too with like the quick high five or whatever, and I think that's may have been why Cueto made the face. I don't know.
I don't remember seeing a high five, but okay.
Yeah, Cueto seems just, I don't know, a little off-put. I don't know what's on his mind, but yeah, he's a guy that I'd have a million questions for anyway. So
yeah, really.
Anything you want to say before we move on?
No.
All right, what was our next segment?
Our next segment was the AAA Mega Championship match. Alberto El Patron versus Tejano.
In a bull rope match.
It feels so weird just calling him Tejano, because anytime I've ever seen his name listed anywhere, it says Tejano Jr.
Right.
But in Lucha Underground, there's never been another Tejano before, so he's the first, so he's just Tejano.
There you go, man. There you go. Yeah, really fun matchup. You know, it's so crazy because now that Alberto Patron is kind of doing what he wants to do and is, I guess, kind of working under a different schedule, and he's had nothing but good things to say about Lucha Underground, I sense this kind of different energy in his matches. I thought it was very entertaining. I love the bull rope stipulation. I thought it was utilized to perfection. And I already told you, I feel like Tejano's a great heel. I'm a fan of his. It was a good back and forth. You know, I think you would have appreciated this even more if you had a great familiarity with AAA. But I think the great thing about this match was you didn't necessarily need it to really just enjoy this match, which I did. There was one great spot. Tejano powerbombed Alberto Patron through a table. That was really good. The bull rope was used effectively. Alberto Patron was once dumped over the floor. Tejano kind of carrying around there. Then Patron kind of whipped him with the rope at one point. So there was really quite a bit of brutality given the confines of this stipulation. But in the end, Ashton, it wasn't to be Tejano's night.
No. I'll tell you what, though, there was one point in this match when I certainly thought it was going to be. Because, man, El Patron was going for something. I mean, he hit two variations of superplexes throughout this match. He hit one regular superplex, and then he hit an inverted superplex. And it looked like he was going for a third superplex, but this time through a table. And friggin' Tejano reversed it into a powerbomb through the table, which led to one of the best false finishes I've ever seen in my entire life.
So well done, because I think the camera was perfectly positioned and just everything was where it should have been.
Yeah.
And when he gets that shoulder up, because I actually thought it was this week, I'm like, no way, they're giving Tejano the belt back already, because they made such a big deal about how he went on this tear with the belt, and then Patron just comes in and ends it. So I'm like, no way, are they giving back that quickly? But no, he kicked out, and then minutes later, he catches, on the ropes, Tejano in the armbar. Now, in a regular matchup, he would have had to break it on 5, and it would have just been a maneuver to wear down the arm. But here, it's considered a legitimate submission, considering the no DQ stipulation, and yet Tejano does tap out. And you know what? I was a fan of that ending. You know, I know some people were kind of questioning it, but I think, you know what? Tejano was pretty dominant with those spots, like you said, the superplexes and then the table spot. So for me, that maneuver was almost Patron pretty much coming out and saying, yeah, I'm desperate to beat this guy. This is my last gasp. I got to make it count. And he does. So I was a fan of the finish. And again, I think it makes sense in the confines of the rules. So many questions now, though, because you know both guys are sticking around. They are a part of the Lucha Underground roster. Does Tejano maybe try and set his sights on Prince Puma? Does El Patron try and unify the championships? Because, I mean, he did have that interaction with Puma a few weeks ago. Saying just watch your back because when I'm done with Tejano, I'm coming for you. That's what I love about Lucha Underground, just such a crowded class.
Yeah, it's one thing that Lucha Underground and NXT have in common that I absolutely love. It feels like at any given time, anywhere from like 5 to 10 people could win the main championship, and I wouldn't be angry or surprised.
Absolutely. I mean, and even look like tonight, I feel like we may be close to establishing another contender in Son of Havoc. I love how they build their stars. I can't get enough of it. But, Ashton, do you have any other remarks you want to make about the bull rope match before we move on?
No, the main thing that I wanted to talk about for the bull rope match was the false finish, because that just, man, I haven't jumped that much watching a wrestling match probably since the Royal Rumble triple threat.
Yeah, man. Oh, God, that triple threat. But, after that, didn't we get our Puma, Konnan, and Hernandez segment after this?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, Puma's training. Konnan's kind of advising him, saying, you got to get your power, you got to do this, giving all that technical advice. Hernandez shows up. Konnan's happy to see him. Again, they acknowledge their history. He even comes out and says LAX. So I love that. And he says, he's a tough dude. He comes from Boyle Heights just like you. He's a fighter. And Hernandez offers his fist for Puma to bump. Puma seems a little wary at first to me, because I don't know if it's just like, Konnan's kind of my manager on Unwelcome Territory, but finally he does concede and he does bump fists with Hernandez. So maybe they'll be a team, maybe they'll be a unit going forward. I don't know. It just, again, the intrigue continues to get raised, and then Konnan says, hey, you got to focus. It's a championship match tonight, and you're going to bring it home. So that's pretty much that segment. Ashton, do you have anything you want to say about it?
No, I don't think so. I mean, there wasn't really a whole lot to be said out of this, and it really kind of escalated during the main event match itself.
Exactly, which was next, correct?
Correct.
So, yeah, our main event, Prince Puma versus Cage. Before we get into the actual matchup, I just have to say, love the new Lucha Underground World title. Big fan of it.
I mean, they used to call the World Championship in WWE the Big Gold Belt, and that's been retired. So guess what? Lucha Underground said, we're going to get our own Big Gold Belt, and you can go screw yourselves.
I love it, because it definitely seems inspired, by those types of championships, the WWE World Heavyweight title, NWA title, just continuing that lineage of just straightforward, beautiful-looking gold. I am a big fan. So, great stuff. As far as the match itself, I mean, these two guys have great chemistry. Cage is an absolute beast from the jump, takes Puma out to the floor, demonstrates that power. There was a point he powerbombed him into the ring post. Cage is just a beast. I mean, he really is. He's an absolute monster. Puma did some great stuff too, though. Like, he did a standing shooting star press. Another thing he did was he did a 450 off the apron through a table, to Cage. Garbage can lids were introduced. Puma was using it on Cage. So yeah, it was a great back and forth, really intense. Cage did this type of backbreaker. I think it went from like a torture rack into some kind of backbreaker. That looked vicious. I think you kind of popped for it too. So Cage again showing off that athleticism. I mean, dude, these two guys killed each other.
Yeah, this was great.
Yeah, this great back and forth. Kind of a turning point in the match here. Cage disposes of Puma at one point on the outside. Konnan gets a bit lippy with Cage. Cage, kind of returns it, but then he attacks Konnan and lays him out. Konnan, though, does get back up after a few minutes. The fight continues between Puma and Cage. Cage hits the lariat. Puma kicks out. But then immediately afterwards, Cage actually he hits Weapon X, and it looks beautiful. Doesn't go for the cover, though.
This was when we opened up and we were talking about Heat of the Night. This was what I was talking about, like the personal preference thing, where it's just, man, I did not necessarily like the idea that they're basically making Cage look like this big, brainless monster that doesn't know how to control himself. And but the thing is, another reason why I couldn't make it a Heat of the Night is because when somebody makes that huge of a mistake, it's going to lead to something in Lucha Underground. Like, there's going to be character progression eventually.
And see, I'm glad you used the two words character progression, Ashton, because I was getting ready to say that just seems to be kind of, for the moment, Cage's character. Like, he's this unstoppable monster who, his biggest enemy, the biggest threat, is himself. He's kind of oafish in that regard, that he doesn't think things through. But you have to imagine after this experience, he's going to, kind of sober up in that regard and say, hey, I was this close to a championship. I have nobody to blame but myself. That is never going to happen again. And when Cage does progress to that point, holy mother of God, no one's going to be able to stop that man.
Yeah.
Because no one could stop him tonight. Because as soon as he was done pummeling Puma, he powerbombed him 3 times. It just destroyed him. But then, I guess he was feeling so drunk on his own power, he picks a fight with Hernandez. That's right, Hernandez, who was just sitting there the whole time. Hernandez didn't cause a fuss. In fact, I honestly, Ashton, I don't know about you, I was a little surprised that Hernandez didn't get up from his seat or anything when Konnan got assaulted, a few minutes prior. Like, I thought then he was going to do something. But no, he was actually really good about it. I'm like, man, I wish everybody was like that, just like, yeah, take care of your business. But no, Cage instigated it. And I think, going back to your point, Ashton, they did it all with a purpose, because it would be one thing to say, oh, well, Hernandez answered the call to protect his friend, to protect his former mentor or whatever. No, this was all Cage. Cage instigated everything from the attack to Konnan, to not covering Puma, to starting something with Hernandez. So I do really would like to believe that it's going to lead to some kind of progression where Cage looks in the mirror and says, man, I screwed up. Because he's starting the stuff with Hernandez, and then Konnan comes in with his cane, and he clocks Cage in the head. Cage is down, and then Puma hits the 630, and that's how he wins the matchup. Prince Puma, a third successful title defense with the new Lucha Underground Heavyweight Championship. We don't get like a cinematic closing after that. I mean, that's how it closes, with an emotional celebration between Puma and Konnan, with Hernandez applauding. And Cage has to start back at the bottom, you know, and I think he'll grow from this, hopefully.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, if this was any other promotion, I would be pretty salty about the way that he lost and the fact that he lost in general. But again, because it's Lucha Underground and because I believe that these guys are intelligent and they're gonna, they wouldn't have had Puma lose like this, or Cage lose like this, just because they aren't good. Like, this is the kind of thing that they planned it out. They know what they're doing. They're going to use this in a greater overarching storyline for him.
Completely agree. Because the thing is, I mean, they immediately thrust Cage into this picture. So he was like a high commodity, like right out of the gate. So I definitely think this isn't the last we've seen of him in the championship conversation. But now that he has definitively lost his match, I've got to say it, man. I'm ready for Phoenix versus Puma.
Wow. Yeah, I guess.
I mean, for me, we've said it.
I'm ready for Son of Havoc versus Puma.
I still want to give that a little bit more time.
Yeah, it's probably going to be another couple of months before that happens. But
it will happen, dude. I completely agree with you. I'm reading you on the same wavelength. I think Son of Havoc can only be denied so long. Yep. Because now what I can see is that they're going to prove him right. I could see him going on a little mini winning streak now that he's dumped Ivelisse. Yep. And as Matt Stryker said on commentary tonight, now with 2 world titles to be contended for, wins matter. So I think Son of Havoc's really going to string that together. And hell, we can't forget about my boy Johnny Mundo. We don't know if he's going to try and throw his hat in the ring now. But again, after last week's episode with Grave Consequences, you have to think Phoenix is waiting in the wings to take a stab at Puma himself. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, great matchup. Puma gets the win. Loving everything Lucha Underground right now. The World Championship scene is on fire, and all the stories, surrounding it are equally compelling. And how great is that to say about a wrestling product? Yeah. But that said, Ashton, unless you have any concluding remarks about the program, we can get into our next segment.
Go for it.
High spots and low shots. And I have to say, my low shot, I'm going to say it's Tejano. Yeah. You're talking about, it was a world championship match, AAA world title. He came close on a number of occasions, so he had the capability to do it, but he got caught. And that's another thing I loved about, the ending, is that Tejano seemed so focused, so dominant, but he had a hiccup, and that was all it took for a veteran like Patron, to capitalize, get in the armbar, and he tapped out. So you have to imagine, I don't know how AAA operates, but he really should no longer be the number one contender. You have to wonder if he'll regroup and maybe give Prince Puma a try with the Lucha Underground Championship. I don't know what the future for Tejano holds, but for tonight, in the present, he's my low shot.
Yeah, that's definitely understandable. I think, man, I'm going to say that my low shot is Angelico, because he lost to Son of Havoc. Admittedly, he lost to a guy who was on the top rope for a solid, 70 seconds. He was up there forever because he cut a promo mid-match, and he still ended up beating Angelico. But not only did he lose, but then he tried picking up the girl on the rebound, and he got shut down in the form of a kick to the head.
Yeah, Son of Havoc was on the top rope so long, even Justin Gabriel was like, dude, we got things to do. So,
yeah, exactly.
I totally get you there. But yeah, man, rough night for Angelico. But you know what? If he stops focusing, on the women and focuses on his own career, I'm telling you, man, he's another one. So many guys I could see getting in world title contention within a matter of months and just having that quick ascension. It's crazy because I see that same potential that I've been talking about with Son of Havoc in Angelico. He is too good to deny. So I'm very intrigued where he's going to go after this, but I do completely agree with you. With that said, Ashton, do you have any closing remarks you want to make before I take us home?
Man, I feel like this review has gone by so fast, but it's one of those things where when you really, all we really had to talk about was 3 amazing matches, and there were only 2 backstage segments, so what else is there to say?
Exactly. So with that said, this has been Lucha Underground. This has been TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John. That's my cohort and commentary, Ashton. Guys, be sure to comment and subscribe on YouTube. What was your favorite matchup on Lucha Underground this week? Who do you think should be the next number one contender for Prince Puma's heavyweight championship? That's a question I'd love answered by our viewers there. And be sure to take the conversation over to Tweetoff, an amazing pro wrestling group on Facebook. And yes, we do talk about all things Lucha Underground. How can you not when it's that amazing? Also, be sure to take the conversation over to our TwitWoW subreddit that Ashton personally created. I would love to see some activity there. And we will see you again for our NXT review, where Kevin Owens defends the NXT World Championship against Finn Balor. Will Finn rise, or is Owens just going to get himself another kill? Until then, tune in and peace out.